Hello, this is Niswander, and welcome to the NOWMAN Show. I have in the studio with me here a comedian who has an amazing story. We're going to have a great time talking about that and so much more in the moment. My guest is Frank Cronin. Hello, Frank.
Hello. How are you guys?
It's fantastic.
I'd like to congratulate you on your water. It's taste-free.
It tastes free.
Yeah, perfect.
No chemicals, right?
Dude, it's hard to get water that doesn't taste like chlorine.
Yeah, I hear you.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. I'm grateful for the chair. I was on a big walk, people.
Yeah, and Frank has a story. He walked from San Francisco to Los Angeles to raise money for homeless healthcare Los Angeles. Frank, that's incredible. Let's start from the beginning. What inspired you to actually do that in the first place?
Well, I grew up in a very adventurous household, so I like to go for little walks, and I like to take on challenges. And then I told everyone I was going for a walk, and everyone kept asking me, "Well, what's your charity?" And I was at a comedy club, and my friend Chelsea said, "Hey, I used to work for Homeless Healthcare Los Angeles. They do great work down there. They help the homeless, and they also help in terms of drug rehabilitation and getting people back on track. And living in LA, you're never more than one person away from somebody who's struggling with an opioid addiction, or homeless, or living in their car.
Or a combination of things.
Absolutely, man. And so then it just seemed like the perfect fit. And then I found myself, it was no longer really about me and the walk. It was about, I was sleeping rough every night. So I started to get a taste of what it's really like to be living out on the street. So I would sleep in a bus stop, or on the side of the road, or in behind a fence, or in behind a hedge. And as the weeks went on, I became a little more in the out group, and I started to understand what on a very beginner level of what it might be, or what it might feel like to live outside of the society. And it took me 41 days to get to LA.
Wow.
And by the time I got here, I guess I had some adventures, and I learned a few things that I'd like people to understand, about the plight of the homeless and how we can help.
So, up to that point, you were doing stand-up comedy and just part of the stand-up community, and then suddenly your life changed. So you started in San Francisco.
Yeah, well, in general in life, I started in Ireland, and then I was in the Irish Army for a while, and I was in the United Nations. I did a tour in Liberia, West Africa.
Oh, wow.
And then I had, when I left the Army, they give you danger money, we call it danger money in the Army, if you go
Danger
abroad.
money?
Yeah. You get
so that's like extra money that you get?
Yeah, you get pretty much double pay,
Oh, wow,
if you're taking a chance.
So Liberia was considered a dangerous place?
It's pretty risky, yeah. Yeah. And so when I left the Army, I had a little money saved up and some free time. And my friend had married a Mexican girl, so I moved to Mexico, opened some restaurants. And then I realized business and the Army is it's not really for me. Stand-up comedy seems like a real challenge, because it can go wrong. As you can see, it can go wrong at any point, right? So, so I found myself doing comedy in San Francisco first. And since then, I've basically been in LA, and integrating into the Hollywood scene. And I thought, I'll pursue comedy and acting and try and fit in Hollywood. And then I realized, what are you doing, Frank? Be yourself. And as soon as I started being my old self, which is go off on an adventure and take a few chances and talk to people and be human, Hollywood turned and started looking at me. And now I find myself here. And so on and so forth, and getting lots of bookings, all because I became myself again.
That's right. I mean,
I don't have to try anymore.
Isn't that amazing how we sometimes we need these experiences so that we reconnect with who we actually are?
Yeah.
Because we do seem to lose the way.
Yeah.
And we get so caught up in our egos or whatever it is that we're become obsessed with that we don't even realize the most important thing is the human connection.
Yeah. And this is all neurosis. Everything apart from a human. This is one thing, if you walk 15 hours a day and you spend a lot of time in the mountains.
Is that was it on the average 15 hours a day?
Yeah, from the moment I woke up, I was either charging my phone and editing videos on my cell phone in say a Starbucks or wherever I could find a plug, or walking. So some days I would walk 8 hours in the morning and 8 hours after I'd go for a sleep and then walk another 8 hours. But
Wow.
basically, I spent a lot of time in solitude, and actually, the more disheveled I became, and the less, after week 2, without access to a shower, and you're carrying your backpack, and you're sleeping rough out, no tent every night, you become, people start to look at you and treat you differently. So one of the things I noticed was when I was alone in nature, beautiful feeling of calm, quietness, and it was good for the soul.
Right.
Because when you're out in nature, that's camping. You're not going to be. When you're living in the city, there's a real chance of things going wrong, especially with people that you don't know around you. And often with mental health issues or, addiction issues or vice issues.
And did you see a lot of that along the way?
Yeah, I didn't share that online because I didn't share the negative online because, well, first of all, I was entering new territory,
Right.
And I wanted to be privacy when you're homeless is a scarce commodity, if at all existent.
Yes.
So the last thing I wanted to do was share footage without sitting with it and deciding what was best to help the plight of the homeless. So I haven't shared any of that footage. But yeah, I spent a lot of time, 1 or 2 nights trying to sleep with people who have been long-term homeless, so trying to sleep on the streets near them. Some of that ended up great, and then other times it didn't end up well because, being in the streets is very unpredictable. There's a lot of people who aren't doing well out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. But one thing I wanted to point out about, you said about being present,
Yeah.
Like, as I say, all of this is neurosis, everything right down to the glass and the thing. The only thing that's truly human is you sitting alone in nature as a human. And if anyone thinks that's kooky, it's not.
That's right.
That's the only thing that we know for sure. Everything else is just a manifestation of our lack of sense of self. Like we build this so that we feel better, and we have one of these so that we feel good. But
right, it's that I talked to George Carlin's daughter recently, and she says that most human beings, at the end of the day, it's all they want what's best for their own convenient life.
Yeah.
And we've really got to get beyond the ego.
Yeah.
And really, understand, humility, and connecting to fellow, human beings and to nature.
Yeah.
That's really what it's about. Because once we don't lose that connection, then we start to see the profoundness of what life really is, and all this other stuff is just kind of like superfluous in comparison.
Yeah, I was only thinking about that today. Is that you might meet someone from the country who spends all their time on the farm, and you think, oh, they don't know anything.
Yeah.
Actually, they're focused more likely on what's important to the human spirit than what you're focused on with your mocha frappuccino grande.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just focusing on different things,
Right, exactly.
It's like you might think you're street smart, but yeah, street smart's cool, but then at some point in your life, you probably have a reckoning where you're like, well, what did I actually do to better humanity?
That's right.
And if you haven't done anything, then being the hustler on the street, making money will kind of feel a little vacuous, right?
That's right.
So, yeah,
What do you think? What's the most profound experience that you take away from all of this?
It was the unexpected psychological effects, and I was only a few weeks out there. So 6 weeks living rough, sleeping rough, and initially it was very exciting. I was off on an adventure, but as soon as I started to, I guess, look the part, so to speak, as in 2 weeks of living rough, you start to look the part, people started not making eye contact. And there's no saying in psychology, people really only figure out who they are based on the way other people treat them. And when you start to become invisible, your sense of self depletes very rapidly, and things you were sure about and how you identified as yourself start to disappear. And I found it very emotionally taxing. So and that's me with a support network, getting hundreds of messages of, hey, you're doing great on your walk. But just walking down the street and people not wanting to make eye contact, or when you're trying to walk in somewhere and you can tell they're doing their best not to judge you, but you feel like you're in the out group. You feel like you're the kid that's never going to get picked for the football team. And then it actually got to the point where my sense of self and self-esteem got so low that I found it very hard to ask for help.
Yes.
Or ask for directions, or if I needed my water bottle filled, I'm doing almost 20 miles a day. I just didn't want to bother anybody. I just felt like an inconvenience. And that was all from a lack of eye contact, people not wanting to talk to me and people not wanting to smile. So if someone is homeless, or you're passing someone who's homeless in the street, or someone who's down on their luck, please just take the time to make eye contact, take the time to smile, and
to recognize basically that you're looking at someone like yourself as just another human being.
Yeah, and I think I know where we get it, Dan. It's because, we know that seeing someone struggling on the street, is a really poor reflection of how we treat our weakest citizens.
That's right.
So
That's absolutely correct.
We find it hard to look at that because it's a reflection of ourselves.
That's right.
And we've learned that from an early age. Hey, I can just keep, moving. Now, there's thousands of people, including myself and everyone probably in the studio, is very compassionate and very empathetic. But sometimes it's just easier, to go about your business. But if you can just, the gift of a smile, the gift of some conversation, the gift of just any interaction and human contact to make that person not feel invisible.
Absolutely.
I think it's worth this whole interview, if nothing else.
Well, and that's true. I mean, that's why I always, I told Kelly Carlin the same thing I'll tell you is that, I'll talk to anybody, the homeless person on the street or a corporate business person or a celebrity that I meet, because we're all the same.
Yeah.
And we're all human beings, and it really does come down to that level.
And there's no revelation.
There's real in reality there's no actual divisions.
Yeah. And this is not like a revolution of thought. Like we all know that we're all equal.
Yeah.
The thing is to make it habitual.
Right.
So
make it a realistic understanding so that you put that into practice when you treat people.
Yes. So rather than like some of the habits that we might have built up in relation to how we engage with people who are living on the street, we can just alter them slightly. So rather than, being too busy and looking away, maybe taking the time just to make some sort of connection, maybe a few dollars to get a little bit of food, or making a regular donation to Homeless Healthcare Los Angeles. Like if you don't know what to do with your money, or you don't know how to help homeless people, there are people who are dedicated to it 24/7, and they know how to spend every cent perfectly, And
it's great that you came across an organization like that because of the network that you're a part of. So you brought some pictures with you, right?
Oh, there's some. I'm not exactly sure which ones you got, but we can talk about whatever comes on screen. We can share.
We can just kind of be spontaneous about it, okay?
Yeah. This is very cool.
And some video too, which we'll share as well. What is this?
Oh, so this is like day 5. Well, that was me at the dentist. We were shooting a little mini documentary on the way, for the first few days and the last few days. In the middle 4 weeks, I was completely alone.
Oh, wow.
But in the first few days, we went to a dentist, and we talked to Frank Castillo was his name, up in San Jose, and he was teaching us about some of the problems that homeless people face with their teeth. So he gave me, we put that on camera, and then just after that, I met a lovely man called Andrew. I wasn't having a particularly good day. I hadn't slept very well. My teeth were sore after this visit, and I met him. He was cooking food on his shopping cart, and he was living out. Yeah, he was living basically in a ditch beside an overpass in San Jose. But he saw me coming, and he saw I was a little down, feeling out of sorts, and he offered me food and cooked me breakfast. So me thinking I was like the big cheese helping the homeless, raising money. Here's a homeless man.
And here he is helping you.
Helping me because I'm looking,
We're all the same.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful man. If anyone's in San Jose and they come across Andrew, say hello.
And what's this picture?
Oh, this is in the cities, it's kind of easy to find places to hide out. But this is just me beside a train track somewhere off the 101. And that night I was going to sleep in the field right beside it. It was like a Brussels sprouts field.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, but something told me don't sleep in the field. And I'm glad I didn't, because at about 5 o'clock in the morning, the big harvester came. So I probably would have been harvested to death.
Oh, wow.
So it
Did you sleep soundly?
What?
Do you sleep soundly?
Yeah, well, I didn't when this thing came. It felt like Close Encounters of the Third Kind with big lights on it. But it would have been. I'm an immigrant, Irish immigrant. It was another immigrant driving the tractor. So I was just thinking, this is not what us immigrants hoped for when we came to America.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
What's this picture here? It looks.
Oh, that was just I don't know how that got in there. That's just a black and white that makes me look like I know what I'm doing. Right? Isn't that cool?
It's a very intense picture. It's a good picture.
Yeah, that'll go on something like a coffee mug or something at some point.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, or definitely in your portfolio. Right?
Yeah, it looks nice,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, it does.
It reminded me of Tom Cronin, The Great Adventure.
Oh, right, that's right.
He did real adventure, though. I think he went to the Arctic or the Antarctic.
Oh, you did a real adventure, but...
Yeah, I just went to Fresno, basically.
Yeah. That's an adventure, believe me.
Yeah. But otherwise, Dan, one thing I did learn out on this trip is being alone with yourself and being alone with your mind is often more valuable than trying to achieve something physical in the real world. So like just spending time in nature clarifies a lot of things and can kind of recalibrate, where you're aiming in life,
Yeah, that's right.
So
your priorities, right?
Yeah.
I bet your priorities have been drastically altered in some ways, right?
Yeah. Do you know what? I always thought because my parents were pretty good, man, they gave me a pretty good compass. So like, I try not to let people down. Like, this is a 4-hour extra drive from San Diego because I said I'd do it.
Really
and I'm
appreciate
happy to do
it.
Yeah. But I say that because it's important, like, to do what you say you're going to do.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
I was taught that as well.
Yeah.
And be the real deal. Don't be fake.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people in this world that don't get that. And I've noticed.
That is tricky because right now,
Well, there's a difference between your private life. I mean, obviously, there's certain things that you just don't want to share with everybody. That's your own private business, right? There's nothing immoral about it. It's just that's your private space, like, like George Carlin had a lot of jokes about that when it came to going to the bathroom. I mean, there's just certain things you just don't want to talk to people about.
Yeah.
And then there's when you're a public figure like you and I are, there are certain things you want to be completely transparent about because that's the public side of you.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't hide what that is.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because people use the word public figure now.
That's what you see like in social media, right?
Yeah, but that encourages bad behavior, right?
It does.
I suppose everyone should just treat each other nicely.
That's right.
With respect and.
It really is that simple, like kindness, pass it on,
Yeah. Well, there's simple stuff, paying it forward.
Yeah, paying it forward.
Giving 51%.
Listen with your heart. I love that.
Giving 51%, I like that concept.
Yeah.
Because then you're never indebted to anybody and you've always paid your dues and then there's always a little karma coming back in your favor.
That's right. And see, and you make a really good point. Even if people don't use the word karma, there are, I personally believe there are consequences for actions. So if you are doing good things, it is going to translate into that somehow, some way, right? And vice versa.
Absolutely.
To me, there's no real being alone. Something knows what's going on. In my view.
Yeah, and the path.
I'm not saying I'm an overly religious person. I'm not trying to say that, but it just, to me, there's a law. There's principle.
Well,
right?
Yes. Can I try and maybe see if we're on the same page?
Yeah.
So thank you. 10 minutes. I love breaking the fourth wall. We are getting the warning that there's 10 minutes to go. So
I love the human connection. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, man. So there's like a gut feeling, right? That we all have. People talk about their gut feeling, and they know whether they want to do something or not. The issue is not whether you know whether or not you want to do it. It's acting in the way that you want to act. So if you don't want to do something, make sure you say you don't want to do it. If you do want to do something, make sure you give it your all. Right? There's a lot of people who will go their whole lives, including myself, doing things they don't want to do.
That's right.
And before you know it, you're so far out of alignment with yourself that you can't even decipher whether you're doing what you want to do anymore. And that's when you go out into nature, sit under a tree, or go for a 500-mile walk and figure out what life's about again.
Yeah. And the thing about it is when you connect with human beings, you see that there's a lot, especially in this world right now, there's a lot of people just focusing on survival like I've personally never seen in my lifetime. It doesn't get better. And until there's a greater awakening, I think, of the whole of society, then there's a demand like, okay, we can't let this continue to go on like this, and then just make it stop. There's different things that all of us can do, right? And you did that walk to try to make a contribution to that, I think, because you wanted. you know, and we all need to survive. I understand that. But we also need to realize that part of the survival mechanism is the fact that we are a whole. We're a bunch of individuals.
And anyone who has spent any time thinking at a higher level, like say monks or people who are spiritual or just insightful people or people who spend a lot of time writing, or people who have had psychedelic experiences. Yeah. They know we're all connected and we're, you know.
That's right.
And what, you know, even in the Bible, I think, I'm not religious either, but there's something about, you know, what you do to the least of my brethren, you do to me.
That's right.
So you're kind of like, if you're helping anyone, it's almost selfish, you know? Like you can actually I'd like to encourage people to take pride in helping people.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of cynicism out there now, and cynicism is just an excuse to feel good about not taking action.
That's right. Or denial. Yeah. You know, to think, what can I do anyway? And like, you know, there's always something that one can do. You know, to the point of religion, I'm not religious, but I'm a preacher's kid in the Christian religion. Yeah. I consider myself very spiritual, or whatever the word is there, because to me that makes more sense. Okay. Even people like Jesus were very spiritual. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I had a conversation once with my dad, and I said, you know, Jesus wasn't a Christian. And he laughed. And he said, you're right. You're right. You know, he wasn't. He was a Jew. That's funny. You know, and so it's, to me, there's an interesting historical thing there, but there's also, like you were saying, there's a philosophy there, like, you know, love your neighbor as yourself, which is, to me, a social science, if you want to look at it from a scientific standpoint.
Well, it benefits everyone. That's right. And most likely yourself. So being selfless is actually almost selfish. And once you realize that, and the rewards are much greater when you're trying to fulfill the needs of others. And I'm not just saying that, but when you I have never had this much incoming positivity and love shown to me in my whole life. Wow. And you know, all I did was go for a walk and try and raise a little money for a charity. We raised 20,000, which is great.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
But the reward that's coming back in my favor, I mean, it may as well have been a selfish act, because it's a beautiful, like, wherever I walk now, people are much nicer to me. Anyone who knows about it.
That's fantastic.
The doors are open. I could probably move things along in a positive direction, both for myself and for the charity at any point now, you know? And I couldn't have done that if I had been selfish, working solely on myself.
That's right. And now you have a network of people that has expanded. Yeah. Too, because
you meet like-minded people, which is rocket fuel.
That is humongous.
And do you know what's interesting as well, Dan? The further, let's say, the imaginary food chain of Hollywood, right?
Yeah. I like that term, imaginary food chain of Hollywood.
Yeah, because everyone's faking
that sounds better than nepotism.
Go ahead. Well, everyone's faking it. But higher up the food chain you go, the more people I've noticed, I'm still at the bottom, but the more people I meet who are high up the food chain, they all talk about how they can be of service to people and how they can serve others.
Wow.
Now, I'm not saying, now obviously we see in Twitter and Facebook, you know, the scandals, but there's a lot of great people who are operating at a very high level whose sole focus is on others.
That's fantastic.
And they all reassure me that that's how you become happy, which is focus on serving others and watch how the world comes to you.
That's incredible.
Isn't that good
news?
Thank
you for sharing that.
Isn't that good news?
Yeah, and then there's some there's some pretty high profile people that have connected with you. So and they all share the same basic idea, right? You focus on others. Again, it's very individualistic. It's certain individuals.
Yeah, and you gotta take care of yourself. Like, you know, it's a non-partisan argument. You know, it's basically take care of yourself first so that you can help others.
That's right.
You know, and if someone can't advocate for themselves or take care of themselves, well, help them up until they can get to a point where they can be part of the society that elevates us all.
And you know, and to speak, you know, humbly and intimately right now, even for my audience, I think personally one of the hardest things to do is to be humble and ask for help when you need it. Oh yeah. I found that to be a real challenge. Yeah. You know, and but I'm learning. Because
asking for help is a skill.
It's a humongous skill.
Especially if you were raised to take care of yourself and be stoic and be of service to others.
That's right. That's how I was raised. You know, take care of other people, care about other people.
Which is great to a certain point, but then to be able to flip it when you really need help.
That's right.
That's the thing, because You need that cut-off switch.
That's right, because we're all in this together. We're all together.
I got one for you, Dan, you might like as well. I know we've only 3 minutes, but raising your inner child right. I've been working on this little thought, right? So when you say something or you're about to do something, you know whether you want to do it or not, right? It's like your gut feeling or your inner child. So what I'm trying to do now is do things in life that maybe society doesn't think is killer, doesn't think it's great, or whatever showbiz doesn't think is great, but that my inner child would be proud of me doing.
Yeah.
So he looks up to me. I don't have a kid right now, right?
Yeah.
Typical Hollywood, right? but I'm trying to raise my inner child, right? So my inner child is happy, and it's impressed or proud of what I'm doing, and it can hold its head up when it walks around in public, that its dad, me, is raising it right. And you don't give your inner child everything it wants, right? You have to make sure it eats its dinner before it gets dessert or whatever. But you might have to work your inner child hard to get just rewards, but never do anything that makes your inner child embarrassed for your actions. Isn't that cool?
That is very cool.
I don't know if that was.
Well,
maybe I need to think on that thought.
Yeah, we all do. I mean, it's an ongoing learning process, So from here, what's happening from here? What's going on now?
Yesterday I had 2 shows in San Diego. Tonight I'm driving back to San Diego, another 2 shows.
Wow,
then
fantastic.
Tomorrow another podcast, and then I'll try and get some of this down, some of the stuff that I've thought about and written about in my journal. I'll try and get it down into a book, and then I'll try and share it, because I think I have 1 or 2 things to share finally at 36.
Fantastic.
And, dude. And then off to France to do comedy with Kev Adams, a friend of mine.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, first time in French.
In French? Oh,
yeah.
Très bien.
Yeah, that's better than me. So I got work to do, yeah.
So, yeah, we'll have to practice French together, because I'm...
Do you speak French?
Je parle français un peu. J'ai des relatives en France, et en Suisse.
Ah.
Yeah.
Je m'appelle Frank Cronin. And I need to learn off my stand-up comedy. Within a month, or I'm going to fail in front of Kev Adams is this big famous French comedian. And,
did he tell you that they don't say comment allez-vous anymore?
I'll do that.
Not really. Oh. It's ça va.
Ça va?
And sometimes how we're all lazy with our languages, so now it's even like ça.
Oh wow. So
you know what I mean? Like getting lazy. Now it's going to be like. Oh, je m'appelle.
Yeah, I can't wait though. Another challenge and something to grow my mind and increase my rate of failure, so I can,
And that's the language of les langues d'amour,
Oh, what's that?
The language of love.
Oh, is it?
French, yeah.
Increase my rate of failure?
No.
That sounds like the language of love. Yeah.
But this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you taking the time to
Thank you.
Come by at Pasadena Media and join me here in the studio. And your story is incredible. We could talk for hours and hours, and we should do that.
Yeah, anytime. I'll be back if you guys will put up with me.
Yeah. I would love to have you back, and there's always more to the story to continue. Is there going to be a documentary?
Yeah, right now all the 2,000 files have been put on a 4 terabyte hard drive.
Wow.
So there's going to be a documentary of the journey, and then we're going to try and pitch a show, which will be the oddest travel show, hopefully America has ever seen, and we'll direct some funds to Homeless Healthcare Los Angeles from that show.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Will you keep me posted on that so we can promote it and talk about it, and we'll talk some more.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you so much. This is Niswander. I'm here with Frank Cronin, and you're watching the NOWMAN Show. Until next time, and as always, stay present in the moment right now.
The past is gone, the future is yet to come, it's now, right now. The present is here, the future is near, but it's right now. Being with you makes the party complete, so keep the body moving and show your happy feet. At the end of the night, when all is said and done, I wanna know I did the right thing and had a lot of